Hey, I'm Pablo Torres, and this is True Fraud. This special episode is part of our latest mini-series, diving into the fraud patterns in different countries that are important to you as a global e-commerce business. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next country deep dive.
Mexico has been, being one of the biggest countries in Latin America, and being one of those up and coming markets for e-commerce. It's so important to talk about the fraud that's happening there. Mexico, when you think about it, it's kind of the filter for North America, right? Everything that's coming from South America into the States or into Canada, it has to make it through Mexico. When you think about Mexico, the first thing that probably comes to mind is the cartels, right? And so the cartels, yes, while the majority of their business is drugs and all of that, they're also diversifying their activity. There's the access to technology is greater than it was 5-6 years ago. More people are moving into cities. Everyone wants kind of that American lifestyle too. So everyone is looking for those kind of like your 9-to-5 job. There's a lot more people that are pursuing that, like your perfect picture of what your life could look like making money, right? And so because of that, then you have a lot of people that are moving into these places, these areas where the economy doesn't support them, and then they start kind of moving into, well, what am I going to do now? And so the activity that these organized criminal groups are offering to these people is, hey, you can make a little bit of cash, and there's this whole glamour around being part of the cartel or being part of an organized group. When you look at the culture in Mexico, it's not frowned upon to be part of this sort of activity. It's kind of cool. So there's a lot of people that are actually moving into cities looking for that specifically. And so when you have a lot of people moving and flocking into these areas, then you're going to have other groups trying to either follow with the same activity that these organized groups are doing, or they're going to try to find their own spin, right? And so in the last few years, we have seen groups getting larger and larger. It's not as common as it used to be to find groups or like find this activity that's being run by one or two people. Also, when you think about the proximity with the North American market, then it gives us an idea of the type of technology that is accessible in the country. And so there's more technology, there's more information, there's more people that are willing to go in and do the work. There's more education, so there's more people that are tech savvy. There's more interesting and more complicated patterns. And as we mentioned with Brazil, then these groups are kind of moving into getting educated to be able to get through all of the controls that all of these companies have. And then on top of that, when you're looking at what people are trying to buy, then it's going to be items that are going to mimic the culture of North America, of the US or Canada. So, it might be 20 degrees outside, but everyone wants to wear a parka that's whatever Goose company is, because that gives you status. And so there's going to be a demand for all of these items that people can't really afford on the websites. But when you go and buy it in the black market, then you can buy it there for a more affordable price. While the culture in the country has been this informal commerce for all of these street markets, this same access to technology and all of these new generations, everyone is buying online now there too. And so you have kind of like a mix of both ends, right? You have the people that are still going to the market because it's kind of like a fun thing to do on Sunday, and you get a few things from there. But if you're looking for something specific, you might go and buy it online. And so there's more and more marketplaces in Mexico where you can buy a lot of this stuff. And actually, what a lot of these people do is before they even spend the money, before they even try with a stolen credit card, they'll sell it to somebody on these marketplaces, and then they'll go and buy it with a stolen credit card, and so that they're not losing money, right? All of the activity, the credit cards that are being used there are very much from within the country. Like, you're not going to see a lot of cross-border credit cards being used there, unless you're kind of in the northern part of the country. Then you'll see, every once in a while, a U.S. issued credit card. Why do they use more Mexican credit cards? While it is easy to find them online, there's also it's super easy for people to just go and pay $50 to the guy that helps you pump gas at the gas station, and because they handle the transaction, they normally skim your credit card right there. Or even at restaurants, you might be talking to them, you don't even realize it, they just skim your credit card. And so it is so common to see or to hear about people that know exactly where the credit card got skimmed. And it's because of that, right? It's such a common practice. And the banks know it as well, and it's very interesting to see the response from the banks whenever they're dealing with situations like that. And so that also affects maybe a little bit of the fraud spectrum of the usage of credit cards there. But when you're looking at authorization rates in Mexico, they're going to be much lower for that same reason, because the banks are dealing with a lot of fraud. And it's a lot of transactions that also look very legitimate. They still, maybe they don't have either the experience, the bank doesn't want to deal with the risk, or knowing that maybe this person has never bought anything on this website before, then they're just going to decline the transaction. And so the understanding of a lot of merchants when they're going into these markets, talking specifically about Mexico, is that you should expect a much lower authorization rate. Your success rate may not be what you expected to see. It's getting better. And as e-commerce becomes more prevalent within the country and more people start buying things online, then that auth rate is going to go up. But it might take a few more years before the country gets there. Online merchants can protect themselves by looking at what options are there in the market. Just like any other country, there's alternative payment methods. If you know that you're going into a market where the auth rate is going to be low to start with, and that it's a high risk market, then why not offer alternative payment methods that minimize that risk? A payment method that it's super easy to understand is OXXO. OXXOs are kind of like your corner store. They are everywhere. There's one maybe every 2 blocks or something like that. And what you do is you print the voucher, like a barcode that you get when you check out with OXXO, and then you go and pay with cash. So there's no risk of somebody using a credit card on your website, and even a stolen credit card. And even if they're using a stolen credit card, it's going to be at the location. You're not going to be dealing with that. You're going to get the cash from OXXO. That's it. And so that protects your account, that protects your reputation, that protects you from dealing with that kind of risk. There's something that I've been seeing a lot with Mexico lately. It's kind of funny because if I didn't speak the language, then it would be I would look at the data, like the information that they're using at the time of checkout, and I wouldn't make anything of it. But knowing the language kind of gives me a little bit of that when I'm looking at transactions, and just knowing a little bit of the history and like the TV shows or whatever, you start realizing that a lot of the names that they're using are names from characters from movies or from cartoons or from or they're using nicknames that are very common in the country. Things that if you saw John Smith, for example, if you were in the US, then you would kind of think about it twice. It's kind of the equivalent of that. If you're going into a market like that and kind of having that in or that little edge, I guess, if you want to call it that, it definitely gives you an advantage. It's scary, going into these markets. It can be so scary, especially when you have such a saturated market. Everyone is coming up with new products, new ways of selling, new payment methods. And it's, while it can be hard and challenging to stay on top of all of these trends, Latin America is also somewhere that shouldn't be approached with fear. In the end of it all, it's an opportunity. It's soon gonna be like I don't know how many trillions of dollars market. And so when you go in with fear and you start rejecting transactions and you start, canceling orders because you're afraid of losing money, I'd say that's the wrong approach. I think what you should do is you should surround yourself with the people that have the experience, that have the knowledge, and go in confident that you're gonna make money. Going in feeling empowered is better than going in with kind of like your defense up.
Brought to you by the Reach Network. Visit withreach.com/network for more.